Hey guys, it's Linda Winter. I have another Winter Designs project, really another tool, not by Winter Designs, but by Philip. Philip, several years ago, made me these stilettos. So he made me a bunch. I used them. I loved them. I said, make me a few more. And I put them on the website. And they sold out quickly. I had people asking about them because I'd used them in a couple videos. And I said, will you make me more? And he said, no. They take too much time. You don't charge enough. It's not worth it. So after lots of requests from some of you through email and phone and text and all of that, I said, will you please make me some more? No. So Christmas comes along this year and I realized I'm going to get smart. If I ask Philip for something for Christmas, he'll usually make it for me. So this studio, for instance, the catwalk, all kinds of things. So this year I said, hey, would you make me for one of my gifts, the stilettos? It's a Christmas gift. He had to say yes. So he made me these. And this time around, we have 3 choices of woods and we have 2 finishes. Originally, I had one finish, gloss, but then I realized I want to use it at the ironing board too. I'm going to pull one out from underneath here and I want to take a closer look at this. Right there, can you see there's a little bit of a sheen to it? That's batting. Batting that I got stuck with my iron because this was glossy. You can see there's a little sheen to it. Now I held the iron right on top of that batting pretty long to make sure that yes, it will stick. So now we have no gloss and we have gloss. Can you see they're not quite as pretty when they're not glossy? But guess what? Practical beats out any time over pretty. So you now can choose from a gloss finish or a no gloss finish. So I don't have my red oak wood that's glossier because we sold out of those. We have more. He just has to finish them and get them to me. So there's red oak with a gloss or right here, no gloss. There's the black burl walnut right here, no gloss or the gloss. There is a walnut, no gloss or a walnut gloss. What's really cool about this tool is that it's multifunctional. You've got a point here, and if you don't think that this is sharp enough, that one is really sharp. Remember, these are handmade, so each one's going to be a little bit different. Can you see this one is not quite as sharp? It's fatter. If you want it to be sharper, guess what? You can grab anything, any kind of nail file, any kind of whatever, and you can sand that down. Now I've got fine grit here. If you start out with the rougher grit, can you see how I'm taking some of that off? If you do want more of a point, start out with the rougher grit and then get down to a finer grit so that when you do finish giving this more of a point, that you've got a nice soft finish. This is a real smooth finish there. So you can adjust this however you like. So we've got a point on one end. I'm going to go through why I would use the point. I'm going to go over why I would use this edge here. You can see how this is tapered. There's an angle to it. So you can see all of this tool. It's longer here, shorter, so longer on this side, shorter on this side, and there's that angle. I love this angle, and I'll be using it like this, and I love this tool like this too. So I'll talk about some of the reasons why you would use what it is you use. You're going to get it in a little bag, organza bag, and each one will be a different color depending on which one you got, and it'll tell you what it is that's in there. When we first sent them out, what we ended up doing was sanded versus V for varnished, and then I realized no gloss versus gloss might make more sense for you. So you'll get a bag when you get this that'll have the stiletto and then this little handout. On my website, you'll find that I have a lot more information on my website. So let's take a quick look at that just so you can see so that you don't have to remember from this video. We'll click on products and templates and we're at winterdesigns.com, products and templates, and then we'll go in and type stiletto. Stiletto has 1 L and 2 T's. When you type that in, you'll see Philip's stiletto. And when we click on the stiletto wooden turning pressing tool, and it is a turning pressing tool, but it does a lot more. Let's scroll scroll down, and you can see the black burl is the most expensive, the red oak is the least expensive, and you'll have a choice there, gloss, no gloss. So those are your 6 options, 3 different types of woods, but 3 different types of options and 2 different finishes. As we scroll down, you're going to see what is a stiletto, information, gloss or no gloss. Again, gloss is going to be pretty, it'll show the grain of the wood, but the no gloss is going to be more practical. And when I have the not sure how to decide, again, if you're going to be using it at the ironing board, no gloss, definitely. So if you're going for pretty, then the gloss is nice, but it's not as practical. As we scroll down, there's basic information on how to use the stiletto, and then information on the pointed or the tapered end. So there's a lot of different ways you can use it besides what I've got listed here, but that'll give you an idea. And then the flat end. So when we look at use the flat or angled edge there, there's lots of information there too for you. So I'm going to go through some of these things for you today, but that information is on the website. You can go print that out. You're going to get this in your handout, but it's too small, so it doesn't cover all of that. I'm going to get all of these things out of the way, and I'm going to grab one that is gloss and one that is no gloss. So we've got a gloss here, and I've got a no gloss here. Okay, so we'll grab those 2. All right, so first thing we want to talk about is if you do make dolls, you make anything where you want to turn or press or push, then this point here really gets in good. Last year with Martelli, we made this little doll here. It was a doll, but I also showed you how to do the bunny rabbit with that, and then the Boo Boo Bear. I don't care what kind of dolls you all make for the grandkids, whatever it is, out of the, you know, clothes from grandpa, out of his shirts, and you want to make the 3D bears, those stuffed bears. But do you see how I can push inside here and get right up in that corner? I've used this pointed end, but you can also use this flat end too if you don't want to poke too hard. Can you see? I mean, I'm literally pushing, not that this bear needs it, but I'm literally pushing all of that stuffing. This polyfill is hard to move and hard to get in, but with this stiletto, you can really get in there. Can you see how I'm pushing in? And then I can go in with the other side and get right into that corner and push down in the corners. So this tool, you can see how much I maneuver just in there. So this tool is going to work really well if you're doing any stuffing. If you make dolls that have small arms, this does a great job not only of stuffing, but of turning those arms, turning the tube right side out, turning the arms, turning the legs, and turning tubes. So if you're doing straps or anything else, it does a great job with that. I want to pull over too, just so you can see some of the different types of stilettos that are out there that you guys have used, because there's a bunch of different things. This I have on my website, and I love it because this pushes, but it only opens up the seam, only presses, only does folding, so it doesn't do quite as much. Some of you might use screwdrivers. Some of you might use an awl. These have a purpose. You know, at the sewing machine, when you've got leather and you're trying to push and you really need to get there, those work great. But what are they going to do? They're going to poke holes in there. There's not one tool fits all, but there are lots of different tools. This tool is very similar to this tool. This is the 6th finger. This is the stiletto. This was designed by Alta Terrace, and a good friend of mine. And you can see there's a point here, and this has a more of a flat edge. We have a point here. We have more of a flat edge. This is more exaggerated than this. These are great, but because it has the 2, I can't get inside something when I'm turning without taking maybe a risk of damaging my fabric. If you're at the sewing machine, these guys, they're great for pointing, and this flat edge is great too for creasing, but it has, you know, like everything else, some pros and cons. This is great at your iron for pushing this silicone that's here. This isn't going to do any damage, but notice it's really flexible, so it doesn't give me all of the options. You can push with tools like this, but again, it's only going to go so far because of those handles being so big. Lots of us use our scissors. I've used my scissors a lot for turning, you know, those kinds of things. So there are lots of other options that are out there. I want you to know about all of the different options that are available, but but this one I think just really has some really nice features. Okay, so we were talking about turning. This isn't an arm of an animal or a bear or a doll or whatever it is, but it's a tube. So if I want to turn this, I'm basically going to get this started, and I can go take that flat edge and just push and push and push. And you can see how that's doing the work for me. I don't have to work so hard at it. What I love about that angled edge, this is curved, but as I go in, it allows me to open up that seam. You can see how I'm going right along the edges. And that flat edge that has the angle, I'm going to turn it upside down. I'm going to turn it over, back and forth. It'll allow me to get in and get those seams open. When I get over to here, I don't want the point, this part right here, to poke through. So I can use this to go in and just do a little bit more. But now I want to take this flatter part here and just kind of angle it here. Without using this point, I want to use this part right here. So how you use this tool inside something means that when I go to press this, I have to use the iron with this, but when I go to press this, I don't have to worry about that seam not being open. When you are at the ironing board, when you go to press, being able to finger press here first, you can do that. You can do that. Either way works here. I love this angled part because that really just puts all that weight and the pressure from my arm down on top of there. If I want to press this down, I'm going to give it a little bit of a turn underneath. And I'm certainly not going to put the iron on my cutting mat, but imagine I'm at the ironing board. And before I get the iron going, I just want to give this a good press. Now I've got some fusible interfacing on here, so it's harder to press, but this tool is going to keep that nice and creased. When I flip this over, again, I'm going to get this right inside of here, and I'm going to give a good little press. And I want to make sure that everything's lined up. When I have everything lined up, imagine I've taken the time to get all of that. You can see this has an interfacing. See how that's sticking up? So that's going to need more weight from this than this is. When I get everything lined up and ready to go, then I can give this a good press and then get that underneath my iron. When I want to get to my iron, I can hold this down, put the iron right on top of here, and move this along as I go. Get the iron on top of there. If you've got the gloss and you want to use this with the gloss and put the heat on top of here, if I need to hold this down and put this on top, then use one of these and you can press right on top of this with the gloss. So if you did get the gloss, realize that this Teflon sheet, this isn't going to adhere to your fabric. This is going to protect your fabric. This is going to protect all of that. So that'll help you out right there too. So you can again use this when you're pressing, use this when you're at that ironing board. So you've got fabric here. Let's just go back and show you. Can you see this interfacing here? That's a fusible fleece that gives a lot of bulk and a lot of weight to it. So having a tool like this really helps you out with that. Let's talk about a few other times when you'd want to press. This is one of those crumb blocks, you know, where everybody takes their scraps and you all piece and however it is, and you do a little kind of a, let's do a collection and everybody makes crumb pieces and we'll share. Well, you can go look and see this seam is going this way and this seam is going this way. If I want to press this here, do you see how this, being able to hold that down, get the iron right here, put that iron, again, not on the cutting mat, but you get the idea. And as I go to press, using this tool to hold, pressing this down, can you see how I can hold this and press that down? If I've got something that needs to be flipped over, this piece here, there's a lot of bulk there, I can go in and trim right here. And let's go a little bit further. And when I go to press this down, I can hold this tool right here as my iron goes here. And I can move my tool right here as my iron goes here and press that seam open if I need to. If this one needs to be pressed this way, again, I would go in and trim right inside of here. And you can see even the seam allowance isn't exactly straight. That's the fun of these crumb blocks. But do you see how using this tool right here? Sometimes the tool is going to work all by itself without the iron. It depends on what it is you've been doing, but sometimes you need to use the iron as well. Notice this fabric and this fabric, they're both going the opposite directions. There's a lot of bulk there. If I want to move them to the center, I can hold this right here and get my iron right on top of here and then move this as I go and continue with my iron right on top of there. That lets everything hold in place. This piece right here, can you see how this has a nice little wrinkle in there? Again, I'm going to go in and look to see where it is that I need to trim. And I probably should come in from the other side. By the way, I'm using the precision scissors and they're amazing. They're going to be really sharp. And right here, can you see how I'm just holding that down? And I can use this in combination with the iron. If you're going to use this with the iron, go with the no gloss. Or if you have the gloss, even if you don't have the gloss, then use the Teflon sheet as well. And again, you're working on your pressing mat instead. So whether this is a crumb quilt, crumb block, or whether this is any paper piecing, or whether you're doing any quilt blocks at all, remember it's a great press tool as well. Same thing with these kinds of things. If we're going in and making little whatever it is, can you see how this gives me such a sharp crease? I don't need to go to the iron when I have this tool. Do you see that crease that's there? So this tool just really saves me a lot of hassle sometimes. So if I wanted to turn this corner or turn that corner, you can go in, flip it right sides out, but you can also stick this. Maybe let's go right here, and I'm going to go ahead and hold that with my pointer finger here and flip that. And I want to get right inside of there. And you can see when I start flipping that out, that corner, let's get that corner going. This is a little bit longer than I thought. There's my corner. And you can see how that's going to let me press that out nice and consistently. I'm going to switch this over to the other side. I'm going to have this part right here. I don't want to have the angle. I want this part here, right in that edge. And we'll get that in the corner. Now I am going to use that corner point right there, and see how I'm using that. And now I'm going to go ahead and just, I don't know if you can see in between my fingers. Do you see what I'm doing? And I don't care that they're not lined up, because what am I doing? I'm opening up those seams. When I go to press this, then those seams are already opened up. Do you see how just putting that right inside of there and just wiggling back and forth, that opens up those seams for me. So when I do go to press, I know just taking this little bit of extra time is going to keep those seams nice and open. And when I go to press, now I'm going to have a nice finish on this. And again, we can, if you don't want to press with the iron, I can go in and press with this. Take the time to line up those edges, but you can see the creases that I'm putting in there. Do you see that crease? I didn't have it in the right spot, but see that crease that's there? So you can use this if you don't want to do a project at the iron, you just don't have time, you're making 100 of these are going to be freebies that you're donating. The finger press works really well. So it's a great pressing tool here. It's a great turning tool, great turning tool, great turning tool. Poking out. Let's talk about some of the other things that you'll want to turn. If I need to turn this under, this is cork fabric. Cork, you know, you don't really want to press. Vinyl, we don't want to press. There's a lot of materials you don't want to press. So what am I going to do? I'm going to give this a good crease with this. And I'm going towards me. I'm going to turn this around. And we don't need this underneath here, and we don't need the mat underneath there either. This can be done right on your table, on whatever work surface you're working on. And do you see that crease that that's given me? And that gives me a great crease. So now when I want to go stitch this down, I'm ready to go. So it works with cork. I've got some vinyl, some plastic. These guys here, you can't touch the iron to this. This is going to create all kinds of havoc if you do that. So you can see I'm giving a good crease. And take the time to get this straight. I'm just doing it in front of me. And this is slippery underneath. But do you see how this is going to crease well enough for you so you can now stitch that down? So that does a great job. Look at that. You can see how this does a great job with these kinds of things. If you're going to sew two pieces of fabrics together, this has an interfacing on it, this doesn't. If you sew these two together, when you get to the sewing machine, you can use this part, but really this part, as it pushes forward. So that just lets you line up your fabrics. You know, a lot of times you're kind of doing this with your fingers, making sure those are the same. With this, I can do the same thing with this when I'm at the sewing machine. So using this, I can also push this right at the sewing machine needle. So right up to the needle. If my needle does happen to hit this, no big deal. Wear your glasses, but it's not going to damage this. Your needle might break. That might be an issue. But, you know, just take caution, but this is not like it's metal and it's going to do damage to it. Again, pressing these seams open. You know, if I need to fold down and press this, and again, take the time to line all this up correctly. I'm just doing a quickie here, but do you see how I can fold over? I don't have to turn and stitch and then turn and stitch again. Now, when I do this, I'm ready to go right to the sewing machine and stitch that down. I've got that crease built in from this tool, just taking a little bit of extra time. I talked about at the sewing machine, your fabrics. Certain fabrics don't like to stay together. Certain fabrics really grab. So again, you can use, do you see how that kind of guides? I can use this tool to get my fabrics in position. I can use this tool to hold this right in position. So the tool here, the tool here, the tool here, the tool here, the tool here. If I have binding and I need to give a little bit of pressure on my binding, you know, behind me, then this tool is going to help me do that. And talking about binding, if I'm doing bindings, let's imagine, and I didn't have fabric for bindings, but let's take this. We're going to fold in half, and you all know how we do bindings. We fold in half, we're pressing at the iron. I don't want to press at the iron if I don't have to. Okay, do you see what I'm doing there? And then I'm going to fold to the middle. Think how much faster it's going to be able to do this right at your sewing machine and not have to go to your ironing board. So do you see how I'm folding that over? Giving that a good press as I go. And in just a minute, I'll bring these two together. And I'll give that one good crease there, and I can go right to the sewing machine and stitch that down. Start with a piece that's cut straight, because of course that's going to make it consistent, but you get the idea of how this tool works. All right, I want to show you at the sewing machine. I've got this fabric right here, and I want to just make sure that this elastic stays. I can use this here. I can use this here, I can use this here, I can use this here. So you find what it is. If I've got to hold that in place, see how I'm using the flat edge? This part right here that has that wedge, right here I can hold that in place and I stitch forward. I'm going to stitch backwards. And I'm just moving that along with me. This is going to keep that together for me. So this tool, this flat edge there, is going to do the job for me. When I want to put, this is one of my eye masks. Remember, we would put this elastic over here. And when I line that up, if I put this one on here, I've got a minky, I've got a cotton fabric, I've got an elastic, I've got a batting. When I have all of those layers together, I can use the tool here, I can use the tool here, I can use the tool here. So use that tool at the sewing machine. It's going to help out tremendously. All right, guys, so you have, again, 3 types of wood. You've got black burl walnut, you've got red oak, and you've got walnut. You'll be able to see the pictures on my website. You have a gloss and you have a no gloss. These are from Philip. Every one is going to be unique. They're all handmade. And the cool thing about these tools is that Philip made these, which means he can make almost anything. He's made me clappers, he's made me the tailor's ham, he's made me the tailor's chalk, he's made me all of these other tools. If you love the idea of having something handmade, just let me know and I'll see if I can talk him into it. Maybe it'll be my birthday present that he does for me. That'll be a gift for you. You can go to my website, winterdesigns.com, and you can find these by searching products and templates. and looking for Stiletto, and Stiletto is 1 L and 2 T's. So I hope you all are happy with my Christmas present that Philip made me to be able to give to you all there. And again, you can click on that. So I've got lots in stock, and whenever I run out, we have more. It's just a matter of him putting that gloss on there if you want the gloss. Personally, I'm going to choose the no gloss just because I think it's more practical. If you want a piece that looks beautiful, then gloss. But if you want a piece that's really practical as well, at the ironing board. Sewing machine, gloss, no problem at all. But if you're going to go to the ironing board, no gloss. So again, I hope you like my present from Christmas, from Philip for my Christmas gift, and a gift to you guys. Thanks for watching.